Tes 1 2. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Pak Koko, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we still have 9 participants, Pak. Maybe wait 1 minute more lah ya.
Okay.
And then we could start the meeting.
Okay. Siap.
Bapak sehat?
Alhamdulillah sehat, alhamdulillah.
Nah.
So all the students are undergraduate students or?
Okay, yes, Pak Koko. So mostly, yeah, the participant is undergraduate, but I invite some of public participants from other, yeah, but hopefully, yeah, there will be other participants. But this is our program, yeah, the guest lecturer in this semester. So actually, it's compulsory for the student in a bachelor degree of international program, IPF, International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance. Yeah.
Oh, Islamic economics. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, just want to know. So it has to relate. You were discussing about Hexer Orlin previously, so I don't know whether I need to review on.
Yeah, I haven't. So this week is in we are in Hexer Orlin topic. So this is the first for Hexer Orlin topic. So beforehand we have another topics of supply and demand in international trade. Okay. The supply and demand curve in international trade. Yeah. Okay, let's start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Dear student, ladies and gentlemen, brother and sister, welcome. Today we have a special program of guest lecturer in this semester. We have special guest lecture today. Mr. Rakhman Setyoko, SE MIDEC. Yeah. Mr. Rakhman is previously he is trade attaché in Indonesian Embassy in UK 2017 until July 2020. Now he is senior trade analyst, Ministry of Trade, Republic of Indonesia. You could contact his email in nsetyoko@kemendak.go.id. Okay, and then the educational background of Mr. Rakhman. He was graduated from the Australian National University, master degree in economics, 2008. Yeah, so 2007 until 2008. Yeah, and he is also graduated from Universitas Gadjah Mada. Yeah, in economics, and okay, his research interest or his he has very what is actually the spatial interest in your department, Mr. Rakhman?
Oh, well, actually, my main concentration would be international trade cooperation. So we'd always discuss about regional integration, preferential trade agreement, free trade agreement, and so on and so forth. So, but anything related to international trade is my concentration as well. So if any of you would like to be interested in maybe knowing about international trade, would be more than happy to discuss it with all of you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rakhman. So please welcome our lecturer today, Mr. Rakhman. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bu Diatitis, Dr. Diatitis, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, and obviously this is a very precious moment, and I do appreciate for the invitation for me to participate in this international virtual class. I think this is one step forward. I do not have this kind of class when I was in the university, and surely we do not have any virtual class because everything was physical and there weren't any Zoom at that moment. So in fact, all the participants today is very lucky because they can experience having not face-to-face but still enjoying the class. So this is a great moment. Apart from the pandemic, everything was working pretty well, I think. First of all, I would like to thank also for OMY for economics faculty of OMY to invite me for this virtual class. I think this is very, very special moment for me to be able to participate again in academics after 2001. I think I was participating more of an academic work and everything. My daily activity is to provide research for Ministry of Trade and policy recommendation to the minister, and that's my agency daily duty. And I'm supporting my agency as one of a staff in that research agency. It's called TRADA, Trade Research and Development Agency. I joined that institutions since 2005 until present. And as Budia Titis explained before, I was graduated from Gajah Mada University and also from Australian National University. So my concentration was pretty consistent actually from the beginning of my study to the end of my study, which is international trade for sure. So that relates to my work anyway. If you do have any further questions or wish to discuss anything about international trade, or maybe if you do have any study related to international trade, feel free to contact me. I think Budia just now mentioned about my email. If you do have any sort of like research that needs to discuss about international trade, I'm happy to help anytime. Please do email me. As long as the data is easy to get, I would be more than happy to help. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, I think maybe allow me to a little bit share my presentation if it is okay.
Mr. Koko. Do we have a networking problem, Mr. Freeman? Brother Freeman, is it? Yeah. Okay. Let's wait for Mr. Koko come back to the room.
Sorry, it seems that I cannot turn on my camera with sharing my screen, Bu. So
okay.
I just need to turn off my camera. It seems
okay.
that the signal is not stable enough with my camera on.
Okay, or may I share your screen? I mean, I help to share your screen. May I help you?
You all see this? Sorry, Bu.
Yes, yes, we could. Student, yeah, it's clear enough. Yeah, the share
Yes,
screen.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I can see, ma'am, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will deliver my presentation. Hopefully that I can go on with this, because yeah, it seems that the state of the signal is not that stable with my camera on, but I will later on put up my screen. Okay, I will deliver today's presentation into three main settings. First of all would be the current strategic environment that we can all of us see, and this is the undergoing challenges that everyone will encounter for the rest of this year, and it will be the dynamic of all economic policy, especially trade policy, for this time being. And second would be the current trade pattern of Indonesia, and maybe some highlight of the performance. And the third one would be the trade policy, Indonesia's trade policy mainly. The strategic environment, basically, as you all know, that we are facing a great shock, or we call it an international or global shock altogether, and everyone will obviously face a strong reductions of global economic growth. Now, as IMF report would actually deliver, that the world is contracting about 3.5% in year 2020. And if you do recognize the report, ANSET would call the moments as annus horribilis, or maybe in English would be horrible year. And we do have some optimism in 2021 that the world would be expected to grow about 5.5%. The global economic growth would be 5.5%. A little bit less for the advanced economy, but a little bit higher for emerging economy. So we're pretty lucky. Indonesia will be pretty lucky that we are a little bit higher than those of the advanced economy like Europe or anyone else. The emerging economy will be predicted at about 6.3%. And out of those, the world trade volume is also predicted to be better in 2021, but a trade reduction is obviously still strong, which is around 10% out of the total world trade. Now, this is obviously not something that we do actually expected, but it seems that the global shock of the pandemic has a very strong influence. Yeah, obviously we do all share the world turmoil, and I think this is obviously becoming a great case for every country to face, including Indonesia. However, obviously everyone would expect that the success of the vaccinations and also various attempts to combat COVID-19 will favor all of us, and the world will obviously recover sooner than it is later, as we would like to expect. And this is very important because some of the literature may say that each country will have its own way of recovery, and it may differ from one country to another. So obviously the success of us responding and an attempt to cure ourselves from the COVID-19 pandemic would be significant to favor the recovery of the economy. I think one of the other most important thing is the Biden administration coming into the equation. Basically, after, well, Trump campaign is not so much successful in the United States, then we do have the new president in the United States, and actually it has a lot of strong implications to the world trade, especially with regards of the trade war, because a trade war between China and the United States has a strong impact to the world and global economy, and it actually restricts trade to some extent. But with Biden is holding the positions of the president in the United States, then we do have some hope, or at least some windows to end the trade war. And what mostly important again would be the WTO, because since Trump was in administration, the WTO was not functioning that well in terms of US participation in the WTO was not so great in Trump moment. So, and this is having a strong, obviously, impact on the multilateralism. So with those regards, it will actually change, obviously, the situations of the world trade, world negotiation, the WTO negotiation, and everything related to trade facilitation improvements of the world economy. And these are the challenges that we will actually face for this year, and hopefully that Indonesia would be able to confront everything smoothly and successfully. Obviously, that is all our hopes. And obviously, later on, if any of you would like to discuss, then we will be free to ask any questions or to discuss it with us. Before actually I enter into Indonesia's trade pattern, I was told by Bu Dia Titis that we're about to explore the HOM model, which basically Hexer and Ohlin model is quite an old model in terms of economic theory. Well, basically the model attempts to explain better for comparative advantage of certain countries. Now, even though this model is quite an old model, but many economists still find relevant to the current situations to some extent. Now, this is obviously a great contribution to the development of economics itself, and may contribute and help economists to explain a trade pattern of a certain country. But later on, I will try to highlight some of the features that, to what extent HO or Hexer-Ohlin would be able to explain a certain pattern of a certain country trade with its trading partner. Fellow students, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to a little bit highlights on the trade pattern, and maybe a little bit some of the performance on trade. Now, if we try to look at this, Indonesia's current situations during the pandemic, especially under 2020, we are at current trade surpluses at around 20.7 billion US dollars. So our trade with the rest of the world, well, it's quite favorable in terms of mercantilism. I mean, if you usually, we are so much trapped with mercantilism sometimes. Basically, we favor export, and we tends to divide imports. You know, we like export, but we hate imports. So that's mercantilism's sort of point of view. But to some extent, obviously, there are some impacts to either surpluses or deficits of certain countries that we need to deeply study to the detail, rather than only judging on the situations of the current surpluses or the current deficits. Obviously, Indonesia is in these situations of surplus right now, with export is higher than imports. However, if we take a look at the 2019 and 2018, we are at deficits. So it seems that even though exports is reducing during 2019 and 2020, but it seems that the reduction of export is much lower than the reduction of imports. So we are experiencing a surpluses in our trade, in Indonesia's trade. So we are exporting about 163 billion US dollars, and we are importing about 141.6 billion US dollars. If we try to consider non-oil exports, non-oil and gas, about 155 billion US dollars and 127 billion US dollars for the non-oil and gas. And trade right now is no longer dominated in oil and gas. Later on, I will try to highlight some of the historical perspective of Indonesia's trade during time to time. But it's not going to be deep, but just to give you some illustrations for the sake of your understanding later on the situations, and maybe you will have the dimensions of why policy is supposed to be taken during those times. Now we try to take a look at the trade balance itself. Basically, about top 10 export destination is already 66.19% out of our exports. So these 10 countries are dominant countries to our exports. And we have the highest surpluses is with the US, which is around 11 billion. If you try to take a look at some of the figures in the slides. And the highest deficits is with China, with around 9.42 billion. So if we take a look at some of the notion for the sake of discussion, basically people tend to love surpluses and tend to hate deficits. But then we need to analyze this carefully. To what extent those deficits are bringing impacts to economic development itself, or to what extent that surpluses is in fact bringing impacts to our economic development. So we need to scrutinize this better, and we need to explore this deeper than just to judge a certain deficits or certain surpluses. So this is one of the most important things then when you are looking at international trade. But later on, I think Ibu Dia, this will explore why sometimes mercantilism is not successful to a certain countries, and why to some extent a little bit dividing the concept of mercantilism could make success to a certain countries. Now, if we take a look at non-oil exports, we are very much successful in doing downstreaming industry, because if we take a look at the top 5 products with the highest positive growth in 2019, we've got iron, steel, jewelry, CPO, furniture, and footwear. So we are a little bit achieving a certain manufacturing development in terms of exports, and this is becoming quite well, I would say quite a good performance in terms of developing manufacturing export in Indonesia. However, later on I will highlight some of the real pattern of our trade for the current being, and those are becoming great challenges to our not only trade but also a macroeconomic management. This is the structure based on technology. I'm using the category of ANSET on the structure of Indonesia's export based on technology, which is we are trying to distinguish between primary and manufacturing. And then under manufacturing, we've got primary commodities and primary industry. Now, and in manufacturing, we are dividing into labor intensive and resource intensive. And then we've got low scale, technology intensive manufacturers. We've got medium scale and technology intensive manufacturers, and we've got high scale and technology intensive manufacturers. Now, if we try to take a look at this, let us see the two most important number. The share of primary, if you take a look at this, on this down here, in 2019 was 51.17%. And in 2020 is about 50.89%. And manufacturing is about 48.83% in 2019, and in 2020 about 49.11%. Now, it shows that primary is dominant in these situations of our exports. Now, if we take a look at this and going back into the beginning of 2000s until now, the situation would be much different, which is primary is more dominant, above 75% or 69% at that moment, and then we are able to endorse downstream industrial development, and it reaches to about 51% now, or about 50% now. So we are quite successful in terms of bringing exports into more processed industrialization rather than only exporting primary commodities. However, this is not something that we could do it in one day, but we need some process to achieve the majority or the dominant facts of trade with manufacturing products coming into more a prime performance rather than the primary products. There are three major traps actually that we are very much worried about Indonesia. It would be the current account or the current account deficits, and then we have the trap of services deficits right now, and in trading goods we do have what's known as primary commodities trap, and this is becoming very essential to our exports, because our export will be very much dependent to the development of primary goods prices or to the developments of commodity prices. So whenever commodity prices rise to a certain rate, we do have some windfall profits from it. But whenever the primary commodities prices are plunging quite significant, then we will have some losses in there. So this is why it is very important for us to endorse more manufacturing and maintaining some of the performance of the commodities. The development is there, and if we take a look at these three products, for example, like the CPOs, jewelry, and iron and steel, it seems that these products is becoming the highest growth in our export, especially in 2020. Now, if we take a look at these three products, are processed products. So if we try to see deeper into the HS codes or into the commodities, then we will find that in fact we are able to manage to process them. But again, this is not something that we can do in one day, but we need a strong progressive effort to endorse and accelerate export to the rest of the world. And this is just some illustration about our exports based on our destinations, and this is more of a region one. Oh, this is this three is still in Indonesia now. I will fix it later on. Basically, if we take a look at this, that our export to the East Asia are the highest among other regions in the world, and to ASEAN. So ASEAN is becoming a key feature of our exports. Well, so basically, if you do remember some of the notions back in 2014, 2012, and we will have Asian Economic Community. Now, if you do remember that, now this is basically we're opening 99% of our tariff lines to the Asian economy. Now, it seems that we are gaining today. Basically, ASEAN is becoming the second largest regions for Indonesia's export destinations. If we're trying to look at also, this is why the feature of import is also important for Indonesia's economic development. If we take a look at the real structure of our imports, it is almost 72.9% out of our imports is intermediate goods. So basically it is for production instead of for consumptions, and about 16.7% is capital goods. So this is why import feature are very important to exports, because what we are importing is in fact to be processed within the domestic markets and to be exported to the rest of the world, while only about 10.4% out of our imports are consumption goods. Now, this is why thinking mercantilism may not be favorable enough to economic development, because some of the structure of a country's economy may be dominated by intermediate goods, like what is happening in Indonesia right now. So if you take a look at this, from 2019, a little bit change over the structure of our imports. Now, previously, intermediate goods, even though it is still dominant, but the share of intermediate goods imports is reducing from 73% to about 72.9%. Now, this is moreover to the conditions of the pandemic. If we take a look at the condition of the pandemic, that production within Indonesia is a little bit reducing. That is why if we take a look at the imports, the reductions of intermediate goods and the capital goods is almost reaching to 20%, about 18.3% or 16.7% for capital goods. So this is not ideal. We're not at the most optimal conditions in our imports. And then if we take a look at the imports, the highest growth of imports in 2020 or 2019 would be sugar and confectionery, pharmaceutical, chemical products, prepared animal food, and jewelry. While if we take a look at the lowest one would be automotive, iron, steel, cotton, man-made filament. Basically, this is the raw material for textiles, and then aluminum, also quite mild. Basically, the growth. or even they're growing negative actually. So this is why COVID-19 has a certain impact. Now we can take a look at from the import sides, that imports of certain commodities that is under the category of intermediate goods is reducing quite significant. And I don't know how this work. Should I finish the presentation, or we will do some questions, Ibu?
Okay, maybe like yeah, we have like chunky material for to make like some confirmation to the student. Is that clear enough? Because it's maybe in a bachelor degree stage. So like maybe Mr. Nurrahman said about HS, yeah, harmonized system, yeah. What is harmonized system? Yeah, maybe I haven't introduced about this system to the to student, all student in this week. So maybe I will introduce about harmonized system, yeah, in the following week. So maybe Mr. Nurrahman could just like explain, yeah, a bit about harmonized system to the student. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that my voice clear? Yeah, maybe Mr. Coco is will come back soon. So because previously, yeah, Mr. Coco talk about, or Mr. Nurrahman, yeah, Mr. Nurrahman Setyoko, so I called him Mr. Coco. Yes, a bit simple, yeah. Mr. Coco said about harmonized system. Yeah, I would like to pose a question. Yeah, so all of you could understand what is harmonized system is. Yeah, what harmonized system is also. Okay, wait for his answer. Okay, a student, if you have any question, yeah, please raise your hand, and then I will give you opportunity, because you know, today's lecture is very interesting, and this is very good opportunity for student to ask from the practitioner. Yeah, now is the time. Yeah, please student, if you want to ask something, yeah, clarify something, please do. So okay, Mr. Coco, I want to ask about the harmonized system, yeah, for student. Could you please give some explanation about harmonized system, HS, in the previous slide? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu. Well, basically, if we take a look at a certain product, for example, maybe I would be more interactive to all students. Now, can you identify what is handphones? You know, what do you call these handphones? I mean, what is handphones, for example? So is
commodity.
Yeah, okay.
Product?
So
Yeah.
you do have commodities, you do have you can explain it anything. Okay, let's say that handphones is a type of equipment for communicating with others. So it's an electronic equipment for communicating with others. But then inside of handphone itself, there is a recording, right? So So we need to define a certain product under a certain code for the custom to recognize the goods coming into the border. So for example, as I told you before, for example, how do you define, okay, let's give a similar product, shallot and onion. All right, shallot and onion is basically this, looks the same product, but actually it has a different tariff rate.
Tariff rate, okay.
Yeah, it has a different tariff rate. So how do a custom define onion and shallot? Now they make a discussion under the WCO, or World Custom Organization, and then under the WTO they establish a certain code of product. So HS or harmonized system is a code of product that define a definition of product. So it relates to the identification of products. For example, if we're talking about shallot and onion, obviously they will be into a different category of HS code. And this HS code is always renewed in every 5 years or even shorter, based on the development of products in the whole world. For example, like previously, we do not have in HS code of 1988 the HS code of cellular phone. We do not have that under the HS 84, but then 85. And then afterwards, because of the development of the technology, then we do recognize phones. I mean, cellular phone. And then they will give these products proposed to the WCO. And then this WCO will make a certain code on the product. So HS code is basically a code of products that is utilized by the custom to determine the definition of the products, so that they can impose some import taxes into the border, So they can define which of those products is identified in their tariff book, right? So I think someone is raising their hand.
Yeah, raise hand. Yeah, Mr. Dimas. Okay, Mr. Dimas. Mr. Dimas is the program manager of IPF, and he wants to pose a question. Please, Dr. Dimas.
Thank you very much, Bu Titis, for the opportunity given to me. Pak Koko, thank you, first of all, coming to our programs or guest lectures. Very interesting discussion, actually, Pak Koko. I'm quite interesting with your presentation just now about the trade of Indonesia and other countries. I have two questions regarding with the international trade. The first one is, as long as we're concerned about international trade, we see that there seems to be trade-off between the exchange rate stability and trade balance. Maybe if we notice that if the exchange rate appreciated, so it will increase the import and vice versa. Yeah. So maybe I need your views regarding with this issue, whether in Indonesian case in particular, exchange rate and trade balance seems to be in dilemma directions. And the second question is perhaps I'm eager to know about whether export and import in Indonesia co-integrated. I mean that you see that in some international journals, we are given to understand that if the export and import co-integrated, meaning that they are matching each other, it will not violate, it not disturb the international budget deficit. It means that the import that we obtain from overseas is used to as the material in order to be export. So it means that there is integrated relationship. So in the case of Indonesia, according to your observation so far, whether the export or import co-integrated or it is not at all. I think that's all, Pak Koko, Butitis. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Pak Dimas. Thank you, Butitis. I think this is a very important question, and it relates to more of the discussions that I try to put forward later on. Basically, if we take a look at the exchange rate and also the correlations with the trade balance, I do perfectly agree with the conditions that you have elaborated previously. Obviously, if a certain currency is depreciating, then export will be increasing, import will be decreasing, or vice versa. Now, this is for a fact happen to any country in the world, depending on how the built-in stability, if I can quote some of the words from Modigliani and some of the experts who has the knowledge of macroeconomics, they would say that it depends on how the resilience of that economy could respond to the development of the exchange rate. Some of the notions, and if we try to take a look at the international trade literature, they do have a very dynamic sort of phenomena. Now, if you see a J curve situations from country to country, now it may differ from one country to another, as we have actually acknowledged altogether that a certain country has its own specific or distinct resilience. The impact of an exchange rate will obviously differ in terms of the dynamic of that exchange rate. Now this one would relate to the second part of the question. So obviously, an exchange rate may, of course, become a trade-off in a snapshot, but it is not a trade-off in terms of a moving picture or a dynamic picture. Now, this is obviously could recently become a more of a scientific debate, and it depends on what school of thoughts that you are entering on. But obviously, if we try to take a good bright light, it actually tango all together between the trade balance and exchange rate, and they confirm that exchange rate do in fact influence trade balance, as well as trade balance could have a strong impact on exchange rate. And how we manage them is obviously an art to optimize the benefits of the economic development of that country. On the second part of the questions is I think it's a very, very delicate one, whether export and imports is co-integrated or whether export and imports is not co-integrated. Well, if we try to take a look at some of the studies, especially which relates to the current development of global production network around the world and also global value chain, which later on I may a little bit discuss on the extent of free trade arrangements that Indonesia has been making to its own trading partners. Export and imports after the conditions of 1972, do co-integrated. Now, we do have some experience in some of the performance on the monthly periods in 1987 to 1988 or 1989 that they're not co-integrating, but that is not sort of like the most prominent situations. I mean, that is not the usual situations that we will see, because in some of the imports are in fact used for producing, and then that production will be used for exports. So we call it import for exports. We even have some policies on that later on. It's known as KITE. So we are giving some trade facilitations to imports so that it produces exports. It compensates with the condition of the trade balance. So basically, we are financing exports, or we are actually producing exports because of imports. Now, obviously, this is a challenge, Pak Dimas. I think we are moving more of the context whether we do agree on dependency or not. So it will go products by products. Now, if we could actually explore deeper in terms of policy process, then how much can we dependable on imports? That is the major question right now. How much import is tolerable to the extent of our economic development? Obviously, it's a major questions that I think everyone as an economist should answer, and it's becoming a great challenge, and I'm still also working on that. So if anyone who are actually doing a study on that, then I'm happy also to discuss it with any of those who are actually doing a study on that. One of the things of export and imports is always the political reason. Now, if we take a look at some of the Rakhman work and seminal work on economic performance or international trade, he always say that everyone do agree on free trade, but they just cannot agree because politically they are not acceptable. Now, this is becoming a big notion for economists, because we do know that due to collective actions and interests and everything, it inhibits people to create an efficient economy. Now, obviously, for the situations of Indonesia, we are as you have seen in the chart previously, that almost 73% of our imports are intermediate goods, which it relates to the production process of the economy. Now, if we do stop imports, a very chunk of imports is levied in terms of barriers, then it actually inhibits the whole process or the whole export itself. So this will be a very counterproductive action. So if the question is export and import is co-integrated, and I share the same opinion with you, Pak Dimas, I think I totally agree with it is co-integrated. Thank you, Bu Diatitis. I think Bu Titis just elaborate on the HS codes. Now, a little bit on some of the coding process, just a little bit, some of the coding process that everyone is referring on right now. They are a little bit distinction between SITC book and HS codes. HS codes is strongly emphasis on the definition of goods, because it will be used by customs to identify certain goods entering into a country, and then they will impose some taxes upon that goods entering into the border. Now, while SITC, the definition is more on the function of goods. So it actually differs quite a lot. Before the HS codes is used, SITC is quite often being used also for the customs. But right now, most customs are favorably to use HS codes because it actually define goods so that it can be implemented at the border. Now, obviously, everyone, I hope that in this class are willing a little bit, just try to open up an international trade data. It is really under NTAD. If you like to explore a certain country's trade data. Now, this is what I usually do, because I hope that everyone in this room are also interested in doing exports, especially fellow students, because this is one of the encouragement that we are trying to introduce to all the youth, especially. We're trying to create about 1,500 exporters, new exporters. And we are hoping that our young generation would be more interested in exporting, because not only the potential out there, but also the strong power of world demand actually attract any of you to participate in exports. And I don't know how I can encourage all of you, but if you would like to see the opportunity for all of you to export, please see the UNCTAD data. Now, you can easily access them. It's called Trade Map, or you can just download them or see the data itself. It is freely, everyone can access the data. It's called Trade Map data. It is produced by UNCTAD, and quite reasonable data. I mean, of course, to some countries which are not reporting it regularly to UNCTAD, you will not find some data. But if there are countries like European Union and countries like yeah, obviously Indonesia, United States, and those countries, they report their trade data in that website. You just type www.trademap.org, then you will be able to open the data easily. Now, if you do have any difficulties on opening the data, feel free to contact me through emails, and I would be happy to help you to open up the data. And one of the good thing of that website, it provides you also the tariff rate of that country. So if you are willing to export, say if you do have any interest, later on you're coming back to your neighborhood and you find, say you want to export a well-designed shoes, for example, or a well-designed hats, for example, to United States or to Japan, then you will find both the tariff rate and also some of the non-tariff measures in that website. So it would be very useful for all of you to use. And does any of you, especially the fellow students, would be interested in to become an exporter? or exporting to other countries?
Student, come on. Anyone? This is the challenge, yeah. From Mr. Koko.
I'm also a former trade attaché of the Indonesian embassy, so I do have some experience on endorsing exports, especially for students. So if you are interested in to become an exporter, or maybe you do have some business at home right now, and you want to see the opportunity of exporting your products from home to other countries, then feel free to contact me through emails, and I will get you in touch with some of the relevant paths that you can do to achieve or to do your export. Or at least you will know some network that you can engage later on for your products to go abroad. Now, export is obviously an more important part, and especially for those young generation like all of you, because it gives you a lot of experience, challenges, and also obviously if you are successful, then you will become a well-being person. I mean, a well-being in terms of wealth, because exporting is quite challenging and it gives you a lot of spirits. But feel free if you do actually wish to export and find ways to export. I would be more than happy to give you some of the knowledge or some of the ways to endorse your exports. Right. So if I may know all of you, how do you find your interest? I mean, to all those fellow students, anyone wish to speak? For example, anyone? I would like to seek your opinion on export. Do you have any interest on exports? Everyone seems to be quiet. Or
Ahmad Fitra. Yeah, you can point. Yeah. So become interactive class. It's okay. We have a authority. Please do. You know the lecturer now. You now have the authority to point out the student. Please do. Otherwise, they will fall in sleep.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, because it's already 7 o'clock. And I think the competition is also hard. Sinetron is already on right now, so. Okay. We have Elvina Nabila in here.
Okay, Elvina. Hello, Elvina Nabila. Please.
Okay.
Or the Imas. I see the Imas online. The Imas, please. Or maybe they are too shy. Okay, but it's okay. For the young generation should be speak out, active, yeah. Baik, Artina Utari. Come on.
I'm Mr. Koko.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, please, Rifki.
Mr. Koko, could you please share a bit what is the most challenge to start export, and particularly for newly started trader, because it is a little bit interest for me to try export something, or maybe the other thing, or for import.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm sure I will teach you for exports, but I will not teach you for imports.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. It's okay.
All right. For export, first of all, it's very important for you to find products. Whatever products you actually master on, that's the most important thing. So I think that's the first thing of every marketing is to find products. Now, identify the products that you have actually mastered on. And then afterwards, try to look for some information on the website, because everything right now is available in the website. I just want to open up the eyes of millennials right now. So basically every information related to markets is available on the website. So first of all, after you find a good product and you are confident, right? And try first to market it at home. How far can you reach, right? Say you've got 1 year experience, or you've got 6 months experience of marketing these products, and you are successful in selling these products and everything. When you're talking about exports, you will think of other variables or other costs that you need to look at. The logistic cost, basically bringing your products from you to the border, or to, say, right in Jakarta to Tanjung Priok, or maybe in Jogja the nearest would be Tanjung Mas, or maybe you can go to Tanjung Perak in Surabaya. So you need to bear some cost on the logistic cost to send your goods to a certain country, or maybe certain destination. Now everything is available in the website. That is why I always encourage, when you find a good product, try to make a good website. Now I've been in Indonesia for 6 months now. So yeah, 6 months, that's right. 6 months. I haven't made any social media or websites, because I'm just establishing myself. But when I do and establish myself already, I will make the first thing is a good website for my product. So it elaborates a good company profile of my company, and a good product profile of my product. Now these two things are very important. And one of the other things is to create a good email. These three things are very important things for actually initiating a good marketing to a beginner. Then we know that we may not expect. I've got a story about 1.5 years ago. There was an exhibition in Jakarta, and there is this young man from the border between Ungaran and Klaten. He produces a furniture in around that area, and then he was incidentally following this exhibition, and then there is someone from the UK at that moment is coming towards them and find the products is good. One thing that he asked is, do you have any websites? So websites is very important if you wish to start a business, especially related to exports. You need to introduce, you need to be credible, and obviously you need to be confident of your products. Now buyers, they do recognize your products better than you do, because they will try to look for any kind of information related to that product, and they will explore more of the products, and they will ask you to the cost structure of your product without you even knowing that they are asking you. So master your products well. Now, if you do have these three combinations, you are having a credible website, you master your products, and you actually know your structure of your products, then you are actually ready for export. Now, the other step is an expansion to buyers. Now, this will relate to your knowledge of logistics, your knowledge of price, your knowledge of what do I call it, promotions and everything. So first of all, I think I would suggest, if you do find or wish to find a way to become an exporter, then do have some products, you know exactly about that product, and afterward, if you do, then make website and introduce the product. Just do those 3 steps, and afterwards, then you will enter into the next level of export. If you do enter to the next level of exports, I can inform you that the Ministry of Trade is providing also a sort of like a place where you can learn about how to export. They provide about 2 weeks, or maybe there are about 1 month of classes for exports. You can contact them now. If you need the detailed contact, we can give you one. Just send me an email, then I will try to connect them with you and see how you can participate in one of the classes. So I hope that I do answer your question, Pak Rifki. Mas Rifki, yeah?
Yes, Mr. Mr. Koko, if I'm a new trying to export goods, maybe it is easier to me to looking for a good website. I mean I don't really need to try to make myself website, because it will cost more time, and it will I think I have to introduce my goods first to make there is a value from my goods. Maybe do you have a recommendation for the website?
You mean sort of like a marketplace platform or something like that? Or?
Yes, yeah, maybe sound like that. The platform. So because I think it is easy to promote my goods.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a good steps for you to do that. I think. Well, I think there are a lot of marketplaces that you can choose. There are some Indonesian, some are not Indonesian, like Alibaba and so on and so forth. I cannot really recommend anything with regards of marketplaces where you can actually introduce some of your products, because to some extent each of them has their best performance, but some may have lack performance. So I don't think I would be able to suggest anything. But surely your ideas is quite a good path. I mean, if you do wish to join a certain marketplace, then obviously you need to introduce your products and test the water first, whether someone would be interested in your products. That's good steps. But later on, if you're talking about containers, if you're talking about bringing your goods into a large amount, people will need to explore you more. Now, you may have a good chance into a certain marketplace or anything, but you may also have some limitation there. So if you do go through the two steps when you are into a certain level, obviously you will gain better in that sense. So for the first steps, I do agree with you, Mas Rifki. I think that's a good path for you to take for enhancing the knowledge of your consumers towards your products.
Okay, Rifki, is that all?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Koko.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Rifki, for the question. Yes.
And I still do have some presentation, Bu Titis, regarding some policy dimensions, if I may, just to highlight everybody. I hope that I mean, if you do have any later on questions and everything relates of trade data and anything, or you do wish to conduct a research on trade or anything, feel free to contact me with my email. I think we'll try to help you as long as the data is available. Then we would be glad to provide one for you. And just a little bit on the extent of the trade policy, if I may continue a bit. I just want to bring you into more of a dimension of this one. This one, I was inspired with the work of Budiono, I think, yeah. He wrote a very great book, and it is quite the same notion as one of the books that I have read during my study. There are a good professor from the ANU wrote quite a good book about Indonesia and quite a fair judgment on the development of Indonesia's economy and including trade as well. So these are the notion. If we try to look at the historical perspective of Indonesian economy or Indonesia's trade, then you must actually know the phase that we are actually going through for the last decades, I think. For example, like if you take a look at the data from 1967, which is the data is available in ANCTAD, and also some are available in BPS. To the 2019, I do not take about 2020 because you already see the snapshot in 2020. It seems that we are dividing into 5 phases. The first one would be the 1967 to 1969, which is at that moment we are doing an economic recovery from a great political change and great political shocks. And then from the 70s until the 80s, we are experiencing what's known as the oil boom. And then we have to confront the post-oil boom conditions. And we are facing the Asian economic crisis, and the one afterwards, we are facing the post-Asia economic crisis, which is on the middle. We are facing the subprime mortgage crisis. Now, this all phase of development influences trade for sure. Now, Indonesia's economy, especially Indonesia's trade, is increasing quite a lot. In 1967, we are only trading about 1.1 billion US dollars. Now we are trading more than 300 billion US dollars. You can see the situations that we are almost increasing about 300 or more than 300 times than what we are trading in 1967. So we are actually increasing quite a lot. However, in each of the year that we are going through from time to time, we face these challenges. And however, we manage to go through them with all those challenges. And right now we are actually entering into quite a significant challenge. That's the COVID-19. And hopefully that we can go through this challenge as well. If we try to take a look at this, what is happening, let's take the the beginning of the 80s or the ending of the 70s, we are having an oil boom. And at that moment, during the oil boom, we are so much dependable on oil. Then our government is imposing a lot of policy to change the situation after the oil price is plunged, which is around in 1980s, 1981, 1982. So then we are endorsing the non-oil exports afterwards. Now, obviously, if we take a look at the next slides, during 1979, 1979 until 1986, oil export constitute to about 50% out of our exports. Now, this is not healthy. So the economy is so much dependable on oil. Then afterwards, there's an oil plunge. So the economy is also at that moment having an oil price shock. And obviously the role of oil is no longer favorable to the economy. And we need to change and endorse non-oil export to support the economy. That is why there are many programs in 1986 and everything, like deregulations. And one of the trade dimensions was a deregulation on customs. So basically, they no longer uses customs, but they use SKS at that moment. So this is some of the policy reforms that we do have in 1986 to endorse non-oil exports, besides all those macroeconomic policy that we do have. Now, if we take a look at the competitiveness, it seems that the competitiveness of commodities is start to increase in 2005, 2019. Now, if you take a look at number 4 here, animal and vegetable oils and fats, what is that commodity? Do anyone know? Well, basically, this commodity is palm oil. Now, palm oil is becoming a very competitive product because it is the most efficient product compared to other vegetable oils and compared to other cooking oils. It is quite dominant in Indonesia's export. It is becoming the first largest non-oil exports in Indonesia. Now, if we take a look at this, basically after we are able to liberate ourselves from oil and creating a non-oil export, however, we are trapped with commodity dominance. So commodity is a very dominant to our export structure. Now, if I may refer on slide 12, by the way, you can have the slide later on. If you take a look at the slide 12, primary commodity is very dominant. Primary is very dominant than manufacturing one. So this is why we need to liberalize ourselves from the dependency of commodity. So the fluctuations of commodity may not influence hard on the actual economic growth. So trade is very much influenced of commodity prices, and we need to change that. And the government introduces quite a various policy. Obviously, the main one would be to accelerate non-oil export. And obviously, to accelerate non-oil export, then we need to open up the market of our trading partners. So we need to maintain market access and increase market access. And then obviously we need production at home as well. Then we need to empower and endorse ease of doing business. And then we need to endorse, currently we do have FTAs, then we need to endorse the utilization of FTAs. And then obviously if you do need to export, then you need to have ease of exporting your commodity. And we are providing also e-trade. E-trade is sort of like a facility for all of you to enjoy, so that you can you can process your licensing through digital. And then we've got various facilitation also, trade facilitation facility for all of you to enjoy, so that you can do exports and do some activities. And if you are a producers, then you can actually import some of your products quite easily, so that it favors your production. Now we do have also some programs on trade financing. The Ministry of Trade right now thinks that we need to endorse also the optimization of counter trade and counter purchase, which is this is right now becoming. I mean, we're still discussing on this matter, and then obviously creating an effective trade system. And then we've got KITE. KITE is import facility for those businesses that needs imports to produce and to export. So basically, if they need to produce and that production is exported, then they can use the facility of KITE. And then obviously, e-commerce is right now is becoming very important. We are trying to also provide a good, fair, and equitable e-commerce. So this is just some of the dimension of the policy. It's not that different than what I have elaborated before. Now I want to touch some of the interesting topics for me, because this is the one that I do every day. But basically, Indonesia right now has played quite an important role in the world trade. And in terms of trade cooperation, Indonesia put a very central role. Indonesia also becoming an initiator for some of the greatest and even biggest world integration. Indonesia is the initiator of RCEP, and we do have RCEP. RCEP is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnerships. It consists of the ASEAN countries and then ASEAN Partners Dialogue countries. Who are ASEAN Partner Dialogue countries? That would be Australia, China, India, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand. So, and this integration is actually quite a big integration. Basically, it is 50% of global populations, and it is about 30% of global trade and 20% of global FDI. So if you do think that these major trade agreements is an expansion of your market, that is why I always encourage everybody in this class to encourage themselves to become an exporter, because you can see that Right now, your market is only about 270 million people market. I mean, if you're thinking only Indonesia, that's only about 270 million people. Now, if you're thinking of expanding yourself to the RCEP's countries, you will be able to enjoy 50% of the global population market. So you can imagine, for example, you are producing, say, shoes, right? Now, if you can actually sell your shoes to China, or you can sell your shoes to Japan, then you will have also about 1 or maybe 2 billion markets in there. So these big opportunities and potentials are there for us to use. And to encourage export development, we do believe that we need to relieve some of the trade barriers. Now, that is why we are trying to pursue some of the international trade negotiation agenda with our trading partners to reduce barriers in our trading partners. So like these are the lists that you can later on take a good look at. Basically, we've got about 16 FTAs, 24 countries, and about 3.6 billion consumers that you can enjoy as your market, and about 26.7 trillion of GDPs that you can enjoy upon your markets. So this is a great chance. Now, the performance of Indonesia's FTA is quite good. If we take a look at this, basically it's increasing. The share of FTA country into Indonesia's contribution into Indonesia's exports is quite large. Now, if we take a look at these two data, the FTA countries is 67.9% is contributing to our total exports, so to Indonesia's exports. So I think we need to take a look at this and also see more of the opportunity that we can gain from engaging with our FTA partners. And last but not least, I think I need to reverse some of the things that beside encouraging FTAs, we are also advocating our products abroad for export. Now, we are trying to maintain our market access with those countries who are doing a unfair treatment to our products. Now, we also try to combat those who are doing unfair treatment to our products, like accusing us of anti-dumping, accusing us of anything, and then trying to combat some of those products that are inhibited in other countries. I think that is the overall presentation, and I think we can leave to more of a discussion later on about policies. I'm not sort of like knowing everything about policies. However, maybe I can answer some of your perplexity upon some of the policy is happening in Indonesia right now. It may not be a satisfying answer, but at least maybe I can direct you on to whom you should actually ask some questions related to policies. And I will try to answer just limited on my knowledge and ability to answer. Thank you, Bu Diatitis. And I would encourage more of a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Koko, for the stimulating material, for the discussion tonight. So maybe I will open just only one question, about policy for the Indonesian trade pattern for the student. Please do. shouldn't, or I will pointed out one shouldn't. Natania. Okay, you need Titania Velasta. Titania, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, maybe you can post a question about policy for the Indonesian trade pattern to other countries, that policy related to tariff, maybe. Maybe Titania still think about that. Yeah, Pak Koko, actually I have one question, but not about a policy. It's about empirical trade analysis that ETA, the factor intensity classification that you have mentioned before in your slide. I found that in your slide there is a which one? Yeah, the slide about ETA. So here, because my dissertation is also about ETA, empirical trade analysis. Yeah, so ETA, as I know that they are A, B, C, D. Yeah, product group A, yeah, primary product, and then product group B. B is for natural resources intensive product. Product group C, yeah, sorry, C is unskilled labor intensive product, and D is technology intensive product. In your slide, the slide number page 12. Yeah, there is a labor intensive, resource intensive manufacturers, and then low skill and technology intensive manufacturer, medium skill and technology intensive manufacturer, and high skill and technology intensive manufacturer. So actually, ETA is developed, yeah, into this. I mean, related to the like primary product, and then for labor intensive. So this is, I mean, is that ETA have a specific other specific classification instead of what I have mentioned before about product A, B, C, D, E? I mean, how to explain it after I have mentioned like the A, B, C, D, E, and then this is the part of what? For labor intensive, low skill and technology intensive. Is this a derivative of the, for example, for low skill and technology intensive, I think it's like combined between group C and group D, like that. So thank you, Pak Koko.
Yeah, we're using the ANSET criteria, Bu. Yes, we do try to. Yes, this is a combination of those criteria, and we're trying to aggregate those just to reflect on the basic whether that product is processed or not. So basically, we try to look at this mostly on the primary one. This criteria begins whenever there was a report from our statistical data. And every time if you take a look at the definitions of manufacturing in BPS definition, we always take that Indonesia is dominated by the manufacturing products. So if you take a look at this, they in BPS criteria about manufacturing, primary industry is included in manufacturing. Now this is becoming a little bit challenging for us to acknowledge that how come export is very much dependable on primary commodity prices at that moment. It begins in that sense. So if you take a look at the 10 major products of our exports, just a little bit going back. If you take a look at these 10 major products of our exports, it's basically commodity exports. And we've got CPOs on the 15, HS15, and we've got minerals on the 27. So, and then we've got rubber. And we take a look at this, it's all commodity export. Now, after that, then we need to explore the real conditions of our economy, our export to the rest of the world. Then we are trying to explore some criteria, and it seems that UNCTAD is giving us this criteria, and we are able to see that actually primary product is still very dominant to the economy. That is why our export is very much dependable. Now, obviously, what we want is not the upper side or the primary dominance, but what we want is more of the manufacturing one. Without the data, we will not be able to build up a policy. So we try to use the UNCTAD criteria for a better knowledge to identify the conditions of our economy. Then by this, then the policymakers would understand that it is that we need to address the commodity trend of our exports. Otherwise, we would be will be very much dependable on export. And maybe related to Pak Dimas' arguments previously about exchange rate, as we know that we are not only dependable on, exchange rate are not only influencing trade balance, but trade balance may also influence exchange rate. So dependency on commodity will create a shock in exchange rate. Now, if you do take a look at this, then the macroeconomic settings will be very challenging. Whenever the commodity prices reduces, then we need to put strong endeavor to maintain our exchange rate, as well as whenever the commodity price is increasing, we need strong endeavor to maintain our exchange rate. So the macroeconomic settings is also becoming very challenging as well. So in that sense, we need to address these problems. And by recognizing the structure of that would give us a strong knowledge on what to do and how to change the situations. Right now, if you take a look at the downstream development industrialization, it seems that the government is trying to reduce the role of primary products in exports. Like, for example, if we do recognize we are introducing the minerals law, we are also introducing the nickel prohibition for exports. It is all the condition where we want to make the manufacturing sector develop. So the downstream development industrialization are hopefully successful, so that the shares of manufacturing sector in export is increasing. Now, obviously, if we take a look at the dimension of the technological base on export, basically, we want to make technology better, more of a technology intensive one, rather than only taking some of the low skill ones. So this is all taken into process, but we cannot really leave commodity, because whether we like it or not, they're still dominant with our export. So if we do leave the commodity from the picture of our export policy, then it will deteriorate the conditions of our macroeconomy and also deteriorates the condition of the trade balance. We need to encourage more of a better policy in terms of actually endorsing high technological based manufacturing without also leaving commodity. And one of the other most important thing right now would be the labor intensive industry as well. We cannot forget that we will face a demographic bonus later on by the next 10 years. So I think labor intensive industrialization is also still very important ahead. I think we need to be very careful to maintain a certain policy so that industrialization does not really create even worsen unemployment within Indonesia. I know that this is more of a macroeconomic discussions rather than trade, and more of industrial policy sort of sets things rather than trade, but the fact that they are interrelated, so I think I need to touch upon that for sure. Thank you, Ibu.
Okay, thank you, Pak Koko. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit confusing, confusion. Yeah, is that international trade is microeconomics issue or macro? Yeah, but if it's related to the trade across countries, I think it's micro. Yeah, microeconomics. Yeah, but the issue related to the policy, yeah, and etc. could be macroeconomics. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Pak Koko, for the discussion and your presentation. I hope that student here still could catch up the the explanation. Yeah, maybe I will deliver some material about the revealed comparative advantage, and then the index, yeah, and about HS, SITC, yeah, for the, I mean, to make some like follow-up material after the presentation of Mr. Koko. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Koko, and hopefully you could accept our invitation for the next round. But I'm not sure, because Mr. Koko is very busy, and this is a good opportunity, yeah, for us to having Mr. Koko here today. Yeah, we are very grateful. Thank you very much, and let's end up this meeting by reciting Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin.
Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak.
Thank you, Mr. Koko, and thank you, Ma'am Diah Titis.
Yeah, welcome. Terima kasih, Pak Koko.
Terima kasih.
Ya. Okay. Okay, student, you can leave the room and have a nice sleep tonight, and see you next week.